In this video, we'll be taking a look at this USB-C docking station from AV Access. The specific model is the KD-E20. They did send a symbol for review, but as always, that does not affect our opinion in any way. This is a pretty unique docking station in the sense that it does actually connect to two different laptops. So you do have the two laptops here, as you can see, and you can connect to multiple monitors and all your peripherals and everything. And you will have a little switch, so you can kind of push a button and it will switch everything over to the other laptop, which is really cool. So if you're having two different MacBooks or a Windows laptop and a MacBook or something like that, personally, I will use it with my personal laptop and my work computer. It's as simple as pushing one button and everything will kind of switch over, which is really cool. So having everything connected easily to different laptops at the same time, all using one docking station. So this is just everything that we get in the box here. We do have a user manual, two USB-C cables for, of course, connecting your different laptops, the dock itself, which we'll look at it in a second. There's the power cable for powering the dock. This part is removable, which is nice. If you want to use it in other countries or such, you can potentially get an adapter for that and just kind of swap it out, which is pretty cool. So nice to have that feature. And then we do have a little smart switch, so you can actually switch between the different laptops, I believe, using this button here, or using this little switch as well. So if you wanted to like mount this underneath your desk or something, that could be pretty cool. You can kind of put your finger under the desk and then push this button pretty discreetly to just switch between your different computers. So nice to have this option, but of course, if you don't want to connect it, you don't have to. But that is just, again, two different ways to switch between the different computers. Looking at the docking station itself here, it is made of plastic, but has a pretty nice design with this kind of grill on the front. Again, this button is just for switching between your different computers, I believe. And then we do have all the different connections on the front and the back, nothing on the side here. Looking at the back first, you can see that we do have the 12 volts for the power supply. This is for the controller I was showing you for switching between your different computers. We have a USB 3 port, a Ethernet port, two different HDMI ports, one for each monitor. Then we have connections for two different laptops. One is USB-C in and one is for charging, and then we have that for both laptops. On the front here, we do have a power button, so you can turn everything on and off using that button. We have two more USB ports, looks like they're USB 2 ports. One is apparently for the mouse and one is for a keyboard, so of course you can use them however you want, but that's what it says it's indicated for. We have an aux port for connecting headphones or speakers, a nice SD card slot. That's pretty uncommon, I think, actually, in these kind of docks, so that's cool to have. There's no micro SD card slot, but there is one for SD, which is nice, and then we do have two more USB 3 ports. So these ones say it's 1 amp, and on the one on the back it says 1.5 amps. So if you're charging things or need a little bit more power, then you want to use this back one, but these ones are nice for other things as well. And they do have one USB-C port. Alright, so this is what the hub looks like when it is all set up. It's not the most organized at the moment, as you can see, but it's just kind of show you what it looks like. So in the front here, we do have one USB for a printer. Then we have two USB-C ports, one for each of our computers. We have one connected to a MacBook Pro here, and then connected to a Windows laptop as well. Then we have a charger for the laptop, so I'll get into that in a second, but this is essentially for charging the laptop. As I showed earlier, you do have kind of separate ports for charging and for the video output. Then we do have our two HDMI ports connected to two monitors, so we have one ultra wide here and then a smaller one at the top. Then we have an Ethernet cable connected. It does support up to gigabit Ethernet, so that's pretty nice. Then we have another USB port here. This is connected to a webcam. We have our input switcher here, which switches between the two laptops. And then we just have the power cable for the device itself. On the front here, we also have an aux cable connected to some speakers. But yeah, pretty simple setup overall. As you can see, we still have a bunch of ports free, which is super nice. So we have a bunch of things connected here. As I said, we have a pair of speakers. We have a webcam. We have a printer. We have two laptops, of course, we have Ethernet, and then two displays, as well as some other things. So quite a bit of functionality here in terms of the input options. But there are a few quirks I have with this. So as I said, the first thing is these kind of USB-C ports at the back here. So essentially you need to have three power supplies going into this device in order to charge both of your laptops and the device itself, which is super odd. In my opinion, at least with single computer hubs, you are able to just kind of use one cable and that will plug into the laptop. That will both charge the laptop and support all the displays and everything like that. And then all you need to do is plug in one power supply to the hub itself. So unfortunately, this does require three power supplies if you want to charge everything, which is a bit odd in my opinion. So you have this one, which powers the actual hub itself, and then the USB peripherals like your hard drives and speakers and anything like that. And then towards the back here, you do have the two extra spots for two USB-C power supplies. So right now I just have the one plugged in here. You can see this spot is still free. So essentially only the MacBook is being charged right now. This Windows laptop is not charging because I don't have a second power supply or even a third power supply going into this port. But I think the overall takeaway is that it is a little bit annoying that you do need to have three power supplies going into this in order to power your laptops and the hub itself. So just something to keep in mind. It's not a huge deal, but we'll get back into the hub itself here. There's another kind of gripe I have, and that is with Mac. Of course, this is all kind of told before you purchase, but it doesn't fully support two monitors on Mac. So as you can see right now, this top monitor is actually completely off and the bottom one is on, and that is because it is ultra wide, I guess. It's a little bit finicky because I was able to get both of these monitors on at the same time. However, it only works in mirrored mode, so it would be both monitors are on. One is mirrored, but this one was not giving the right aspect ratio, so it was kind of like the same size as this one, just on here, so there's the kind of black bars on the sides. So I can't actually even recreate that, which is, I don't know, a little bit weird. I don't think that's a good thing necessarily, but it's fully supporting the ultra-wide now, and the top one just doesn't turn on unless you switch to Windows mode, which I'll show you in a second. So it's a little bit weird, but again, if you're using two monitors in mirrored mode when they're just kind of duplicating each other, it's not super useful anyway. So essentially with Mac, it does just support one monitor, I would say. It does technically support two in mirrored mode if they're not ultra wide, I guess. But overall, you're just going to kind of want to use it with one monitor if you're using it with Mac. As far as the ultra-wide monitor goes, we are running at the full resolution, even at 100 Hertz. That's super nice. It does support up to 4K 60 Hertz, but if you're operating at a lower resolution than 4K, then it does support a higher Hertz. So that's super nice. You should be able to do pretty much whatever you want with most monitors, which is really good. So again, the negative part is it does only support one monitor properly on Mac, but as far as Windows goes, you're not going to have any problems. So I would not necessarily recommend it to Mac users if you have dual monitors, but if you do have two monitors and two PCs, it will fully support both. So to go ahead and switch between the two computers, it's as easy as pushing one of these buttons. So again, we have this kind of controller here, which does the same thing as pushing this button. So you can push either one. This one is a longer cable, of course, so you're able to kind of mount it somewhere if you want to, but you're just going to tap this button here. You can see it will input switch, and automatically it will show up as Windows on both monitors here. So it's as simple as that, and it does switch very quickly as well. So we do have full support of the actual laptop monitor and then the two extra ones as well. So it's all in extended mode, it's not mirrored or anything. So that's fully supported. It is just Mac that has that kind of issue. And it is technically a Mac issue, not an issue with the hub, but most hubs deal with it in software. This one just doesn't support that software. So it's a little bit odd that they chose just not support it rather than use the software. But again, for Windows, it works really, really well, and I don't have any problems with it at all. It's just with Mac that is a little bit limited. And in general, fully supporting two computers at the same time is super nice. To be able to switch your webcam and keyboard and mouse and printer and speakers and everything just by pushing that button is super, super convenient. Again, I wish it fully supported Mac with dual monitors, but that's the only thing I can complain about because everything else just works really well. So overall, I would say it's still a very solid hub. There are a couple of improvements I would definitely make, but if you're using it, especially with Windows laptops, it's very, very convenient and a great addition to most setups.